Greetings, fellow dungeon delvers, and welcome to Dorans and Dragons. My name is Justin, and I'm going to be your guide to bringing your favorite League of Legends champions to life in Dungeons & Dragons. Today we're celebrating the release of our 100th episode by rebuilding the first character we built for the channel, Yasuo, the Unforgiven. Before we get started with the build, we're going to skip his backstory and take a look at how far we've come. We started this series off with subpar recording, subpar audio, and subpar graphics. Have these things gotten better? Not much, but hey, improvement is improvement. I mean, geez, I even left the damage text in on this one. What an amateur. As always, if you enjoy our builds, go ahead and like the video and hit that subscribe button so you're always notified when we release our builds. We'd like to take a minute and thank our awesome patrons over on Patreon who support us every month. Thanks for sticking with me for over 100 episodes, especially those of you who started with us in the beginning. We have King and Mr. Kage, the rocks of the channel in the Discord, Slick Sick, our build stream guru, Ionite, the longest lasting, and everyone who's followed them. If you like our videos and want to support the channel, come join us over on Patreon today to get access to our awesome Discord community where we talk League and D&D all day long. Alright, now let's get into it. Here's a quick preview of the build. For race, we're going with Variant Human. Per usual, our stats are going to be determined using the standard array. For our stat priorities, we're going to max Dexterity and dump Intelligence. We have multi-classing requirements in Dexterity, Wisdom, and Charisma. Our leveling path is going to be a quick level in Fighter, 4 levels in Monk, back to Fighter for 5 levels, then we'll finish the build as a Bard of all classes. Yasuo's passive, Way of the Wanderer, will come from Fighting Spirit. His Q, Steel Tempest, is going to be Lunging Attack, Fists of Unbroken Air, and Rush of the Gale Spirits. Our W, Windwall, will be Windwall. His E, Sweeping Blade, will come from the Mobile Feat and Mobile Flourish. And finally, we get our ultimate Last Breath from Steel Wind Strike. For race, we're going with Variant Human. As a Variant Human, we get a +1 to 2 ability scores. We'll take 1 for Dexterity and 1 for Wisdom. On top of that, we'll get a skill proficiency and Insight. And finally, the real reason we picked this race, which is for the free feat. We'll grab our speed on the battlefield early with the Mobile Feat. Mobile is going to bump up our speed by 10 feet, let our dashes ignore difficult terrain, and prevent opportunity attacks from threatening us as long as we made an attempt to strike that creature with a melee attack beforehand. For background, we're going to prove a Wanderer isn't always lost with the Outlander background. We'll get proficiency with Athletics for leaping up for our ult and Survival for living on the road. Ironically, we also get a feature called Wanderer, which is going to give us eidetic memory of the places we travel, and the ability to easily find food and fresh water for you and your party. But most importantly, this will give us proficiency with our flute, so we don't have to wait for our bard levels to hit them with that sick Freebird solo. For stats, we're going for the balance you have by inting 9 times and becoming a god with that 10th death with the standard array. Roll if you want to, but keep at least a 13 in Dexterity, Wisdom, and Charisma for multi-classing purposes. Speaking of Dexterity, we need to make our sword strikes swift and true, so we'll take that at a 15. We'll get our Charisma after that to suitably engage with the Nine-Tailed Fox. Wisdom is going to be next, but mainly the knowledge and maturity he gained on his travels, not from when he fled his post. Constitution is going to be above average to survive in the wilds and in the middle of team fights. Our strength is going to be average, and we'll have to dump intelligence as expected, because my friend Tyler, the lovable goofball, still mains this guy. For equipment, we'll need our trusty flute and an epic steel longsword we'll use to channel the wind. Okay, before we get into the class levels, special shout out to Just Some Guy with a Sword on the build stream, who gave us 2 clutch suggestions that really made this build take off. That all being said, let's kick off the build with a quick level in Fighter. Fighters have a D10 hit die and will give us proficiency with our longsword, which is what we're here for initially. We'll also get some flips and tricks with a skill proficiency in Acrobatics, and a Mean Mug with proficiency in Intimidation. As a fighter, you choose a fighting style, and we're going to do so with Superior Technique, for the Lunging Attack technique for our Q. It'll let you add 5 feet to your attack range and let you roll a d8 worth of extra damage once per rest. And our final fighter feature is going to be Second Wind, letting us heal back 1d10 plus our fighter level and hit points as a bonus action once per rest. Special reminder to always use this before you burn any hit die on a short rest. Alrighty, now that we've gotten our longsword proficiency, We'll start to master using it and the wind with some levels in Monk. Monks have a D8 hit die and give us no new proficiencies. We will get a new AC calculation thanks to Unarmored Defense, giving us 10 plus our Dex and Wisdom modifiers, giving us a nice 15 to start off with. The other feature we get here is Martial Arts, which is a pretty dense feature, so I'll just highlight the important part, which is you can use Dexterity instead of Strength for your attack and damage rolls when it comes to your Monk weapons. But Justin, my longsword isn't a Monk weapon. How does this help? Well, hypothetical inquisitive viewer, at 2nd level, monks get Dedicated Weapon thanks to Tasha's. Dedicated Weapon is going to let us choose a single weapon once per rest to imbue our ki with to become a monk weapon as long as we're proficient with it, and it doesn't have the heavy or special properties, meaning our longsword just became a monk weapon. That's great, but what's ki? Okay, I think this gimmick has run its course. Have a cookie and go sit over there. Ki is a pool of points we'll use to power some cool monk abilities that recharge on a short rest. Right now, the only one that's super important to the build is Step of the Wind, which will let you spend a ki point to take the dash or disengage action as a bonus action on your turn, and double your jump distance for the rest of it. This is going to be what's going to let you leap across the screen to ult your enemy. Our final level 2 feature is Unarmored Movement, giving us an increase of 10 feet to our movement speed. Level 3 monks get a bunch of features as well, starting with Ki Fueled Attack, another great addition thanks to Tasha's. Anytime you spend a ki point as part of your action, you can make a strike with your monk weapon as a bonus action before the end of your turn. This is going to let us make blade strikes whenever we use our ki points offensively thanks to our monastic tradition. Just like our original build, we're going with the Way of the 4 Elements. We're going to get Elemental Disciplines, which are sub-abilities we can spend ki points to use. Fist of Unbroken Air is going to be our single target Q3. You create a blast of compressed air, or a sick tornado, who's keeping track, spending 2 ki points to choose a creature within range and force a strength save on them. If they fail, they take 3d10 bludgeoning plus an extra 1d10 for each ki point you want to spend on top, and knock them back up to 20 feet prone. Keep this in mind when you get your ultimate for a sick combo. Rush of the Gale Spirits is going to let you spend 2 ki points to cast the Gust of Wind spell. You fire off a 60-foot long, 10 feet wide blast of wind, knocking back all creatures in its path 15 feet away if they fail a strength saving throw. Okay, you've been talking about this level for a while now. Surely there's nothing else you get at this level? I thought I told you to go sit over there. And don't call me Shirley. The other feature we get at this level is Deflect Missiles, which is a cool way to use our W until we get Wind Wall later on. Anytime you're the target of a ranged weapon attack, you can burn your reaction to reduce the damage by 1d10 plus your dex mod and your monk level. If you knock that damage to 0, you can spend a ki point to chuck that missile right back at them or another target, counting it as a thrown monk weapon for the attack. Try not to toss Olaf's axe back though, it just resets the cooldown on his Q. 4th level monks get the first ability score improvement of the build. As always, we're going to break down all of your options here so you can pick and choose for yourself along the way. Now normally we'd have a feat or 2 you'd need to get, and then it'd be ASIs from there. But for this build, we're going full stat bumps, so live your best life. We're recommending at Monk 4 and Fighter 4 that you bump your Dexterity 2 points each time, maxing it. Then at Fighter 6, you'll bump your Wisdom 2 points for a higher AC and a better save on your Monk abilities. And finally at Bard 4 and 8, you'll increase your Charisma 2 points for better saves on your ult and Wind Wall. Now that we've gotten our Q and our longsword to hit like a truck, we'll jump over to Fighter to get our passive. First though, 2nd level fighters get one of the coolest features in the game, Action Surge, letting you take 1 extra action on a turn once per rest. The main combo we'll use here is going to be our Q ult combo, using Fist of Unbroken Air to knock a target back, and then Action Surging to cast Steel Wind Strike to jump up to them and give them the old Soryegaton. At 3rd level, fighters also choose their subclass via their martial archetype. We're going to pick the other choice we recommended last time we made this build with the Samurai. We're going to get a suave way with our words with the Persuasion skill proficiency, and the Fighting Spirit feature. As a bonus action, 3 times per long rest, you can give yourself advantage on all attacks you make in a single turn, including if you Action Surge, and also gain 5 temporary hit points, a la your Flow Shield. At level 5, fighters get extra attack, giving us the ability to make 2 attacks per action instead of 1. This might be the latest we've gotten it in a martial build, but Ki Fueled Attack will help you until you get there. Alright, time for the potential controversy to begin, but we're jumping over to some levels in Bard to get our ultimate and our win wall. Bards have a D8 hit die and give us proficiency with performance, because if that Freebird solo didn't charm Ari before, it certainly will now. Now Bards do get spells here, but none we particularly care about, so we'll skip over that and talk about our Bardic Inspiration. This is a pool of scaling die, starting at a D6, that you can give to your allies as a bonus action, that they can then add to any check, save, or attack roll. The pool is as big as your Charisma mod, and recharge initially on a long rest. Second level Bard is going to make Yasuo a jack of all trades and give him another song to play besides Freebird, the Song of Rest. Jack of all trades amps up any ability check you make with a skill you're not already proficient in, giving you half of your proficiency bonus. Song of Rest is going to let you play a little ditty to your short resting folks spending hit die and giving them an extra 1d6 of healing on top of whatever they get back. Level 3 Bards choose their Bard College, and while all the other people are studying the girls, sorry Ari, we'll be studying the blade, meaning the College of Swords of course. There are a bunch of fun features to pick up here. Our longsword becomes a spellcasting focus for our Bard spells, meaning when we win wall later, it's going to come roiling off our blade all cool like. We'll also learn another fighting style. Dueling is going to be our best option here, giving you a permanent +2 to your longsword damage as long as you're only using it in one hand, as you should. And finally we get Blade Flourish, which is a set of options we can use by spending Bardic Inspiration die. First off, passively, anytime you take the attack action on your turn, your walking speed increases by 10 feet for the rest of the turn. Then, anytime you hit a creature, you can choose a way to style on them, rolling your Bardic Inspiration die and adding damage to your attack and using the roll in another way based on the flourish. Defensive Flourish is going to let you add the roll to your AC until the start of your next turn. Slashing Flourish is going to let you hit another creature within 5 feet of you with the same extra damage. Mobile Flourish is going to be our E, letting you push the target 5 feet plus whatever you rolled on the die away from you, and letting you spend your reaction to move to a space within 5 feet of the target. That's not all we get there though. Oh dear God, let the video end already! Sorry about that, they won't be back after that. The final feature we'll get here is Expertise, letting us double our proficiency bonus in our athletics and acrobatics checks for our aerial shenanigans. Level 5 Bards get Font of Inspiration, giving us the final piece of our short rest machine by letting our Bardic Inspiration die recharge on a short rest now instead of a long rest. And finally at Bard 10 we'll get another round of Expertise and Magical Secrets. For the skills here we're going with Performance and Intimidation. Performance for our final Freebird reference, and Intimidation, because at this point you're a late game god ready to kill anyone who gets Hasagi'd. Alrighty, but speaking of magical secrets, let's get our win wall with Win Wall. You'll yell out, "Face the wind," and generate a 50-foot long, 15 feet high, 1 foot thick wall of wind, forcing all creatures in its area to make a strength saving throw or take 3d8 bludgeoning damage. This wall does more than that though. Small or smaller flying creatures can't breach it. Loose objects fly upward, and ordinary projectiles are deflected upward and away. Now we'll get our ultimate with Steel Wind Strike. You'll leap up and vanish, striking like the wind, rolling a melee spell attack on up to 5 creatures, dealing 6d10 force damage on a hit, and when you're done, you teleport to within 5 feet of one of the creatures you attempted to attack. For proper flavor, make sure you land on the one you hit with Q3. Alright, now that we've completed the build, let's see how we did. First, the good. The self-wombo combo potential here is amazing. And if that isn't enough, you have so many tools to cut through the battlefield, to the point where your DM is just going to lock you in narrow caves and dungeons to try and counter you. If your damage and mobility weren't enough, your stamina sure will be, considering you recharge almost all of your special features on a short rest. Meaning just like your ult in-game, you're always ready for that next team fight. Now the bad. There isn't much bad about this build honestly, but having a negative intelligence modifier can definitely put you in peril against some types of enemies, so be careful with any illithid you find out there. We also get extra attack a little later in the build than I'd like. It's made up for with a couple of features I mentioned earlier, but still worth mentioning. So what'd you think? I've included a link to this build via D&D Beyond in the description below, as well as Amazon links to the books used in this build. If you enjoy this type of content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. We have a few awesome rewards, and you get access to our great Discord community. We plan on turning out one League Champion build every week. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll catch you on the Rift, or in the Forgotten Realms.